Hey folks, this is Warner, and I'm just going to be going through some examples today on some resources or things that I do to try and help support my students who are English language learners. These are going to be some examples of resources that I use and different websites, but also things that are built into student Chromebooks that do not take any additional kind of effort or tabs or downloading or really anything on your part. So how you can use this video. First things first, I would encourage you, if you are looking for a specific thing to really get in quickly, take a look at the video description at the bottom where I have timestamps where I talk kind of to link you directly to specific parts of this video to make sure that you want to get to the, if you really are just looking for one thing, that can take you to there. Okay. But I encourage you to take a look at this, familiarize yourself with these so that you can show your student, your ELL student, and kind of help set them up with this because, we all know they are probably a little stressed out at the moment just by being in an environment that is where they might not understand or be able to participate fully. So first things first is probably something you already know how to do, but this is one of the quickest ways that I have used to help support ELL students, especially newcomers that do have some kind of English proficiency, is translating a document. Okay, so here I am in a Google Doc. I'm going to go ahead and hit Tools, Translate Document. I can change the name to it, right? So Spanish copy or whatever, and then you choose your language. Let's say I want to translate this into Arabic. Translate. And notice it created a new tab because this is a completely new document, but it took everything that I had, all the formatting and everything else from my previous Google Doc, and now that whole Google Doc and everything in it, in the way it was formatted, is now in Arabic. I do not speak Arabic. I cannot speak to the accuracy of this translation, but in my experience with Spanish and other stuff, it has been pretty darn close. Okay, so that takes very little effort on your part to be able to translate this document into, and very little modification on your part to translate a Google Doc that you might be using with your student into a different language. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. All right, and we can close that as well. So here I am in a just a random Google Slides presentation that I pulled up. And this is another way that I often share slides. I don't know about you, but I often share slides and other resources with my students. So if I have a student that I'm translating and there might be directions or other things on the slides that I want to make sure they're able to access, here's what I am going to go ahead and do. So this one takes a little bit more work. If you have found a better extension than the one I'm about to show you that can help with this, please let me know because I'm looking for it. But take a look at this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my add-ons. I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit so I can get to everything. Okay, there we go. I'm going to get to my add-ons over here. And this Slides Translator add-on can do a few things. So if you want to have a student be able to, this is an add-on that I got. So if you click on Get Add-ons and search for Slides Translator, this will come up. And so if you want to have students type in a different language or kind of type what it's saying, you can do that. Or you can pull up this kind of sidebar, give it a second, and you can let them kind of speak in their language and it will type into a new language. Or if I select here, I want to go to the thing that I use to modify stuff for my students. So Slides Translate text box. So in here, it will kind of say, do I want to select my the selected text box, click translate. And this is not perfect, right? Because this has now removed all the formatting and bulleting, but you can then copy and paste this, or if the student has this on their Chromebook as this, and it has access to your slides, they can, get a general idea of what's going on. Again, it's not perfect, but it helps. What I will usually do is then copy and paste it back into here and make a completely different version, Spanish version for my students. Okay? So that's how you can modify or translate a Google Slides presentation. Here I am on a website though, right? So I might send my students out to research something on specific websites I give them, and this is going to be kind of difficult. Yes, I could copy and paste this into Google Doc and translate that Google Doc, but there is an easier way. And if you teach this to the student you're thinking about for this, it might enable them to be able to access even more than you would necessarily think about. So I'm going to go ahead and right click. And this is a feature that is built into Chrome or the Chromebooks that they are using. So if you go down, notice there's this translate thing in this right click menu, translate to Spanish. Right, you can change the language that you want it to look at, but notice this isn't going to work for things like, up here, the top, this is a picture, but it just translated this whole website in Spanish, right? And it does it live, right? It does all the bars, all the buttons, everything. And notice here, this is where there's this little Google Translate icon, and you can switch it back, okay? So this is something that could be huge for a kid, especially if you pair that with something like this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on Spanish, and then I'm going to go down to my settings. So check out my accessibility videos if you want to know how to get to this, but I'm going to go ahead and find select to speak on the student's Chromebook, and I'm going to make sure we click that. And when I select this, watch what happens.
El discurso de Gettysburg, Pensilvania, 19 de noviembre de 1863. El 1 de junio de 1865.
So I just want to take a second and recap what just happened. So first, I translated this entire website that was written originally in English into Spanish. But we know that many of our students that are coming to us that are ELLs might have learning gaps or might not be super strong in reading in their first language. So we're using this accessibility feature and having it read the text to them. And so it translates the English written text into Spanish audio for the student. That's pretty awesome. Okay. Now, what if you want to make sure that they can access or kind of realize what you are saying to them? Details out there. All right, let's turn that off. Okay. So we're going to go over here. So we do have, in addition to Google Workspace, we also have Microsoft Office. It is the same exact login. So if you go to like powerpoint.com and sign in, it's the same username and password as you're trying to get into your Gmail or your Google Drive or any of that stuff. And so Microsoft has actually gone a little bit further than Google in terms of a lot of their translation. So these are going to be some Microsoft tools that I'm going to show you real quick. So let's say, for example, I'm giving a lecture or giving a PowerPoint presentation or just using slides to share some information with students. So I'm going to go ahead and go to, now that I have my PowerPoint, this really only works in the web, unless I think the Macs might have this. If you have the newest version of PowerPoint, Windows, for whatever reason, we're stuck on an old version. But for kids on their Chromebooks, it doesn't really necessarily matter. So I'm going to go to Slideshow as the teacher. I'm going to go to Slideshow, and I'm going to go down here to where it says Present Live or use Subtitles. I'm going to show you two things. So say I'm projecting up for a student. I'm going to go ahead and hit Always Use. I'm going to go ahead and hit Subtitles, And so when I present, this might be something that can help a student with low vision. Google Slides does this too. So when I'm speaking about our topic, it is going to go ahead and include subtitles for what I'm saying in real time. It's going to do its best to try and also even include punctuation as well, which is cool, right? But whatever. Why am I showing you this? Why do we have to pull up PowerPoint for this? Check this out. Spoken language, English. Subtitle language, Dutch. Let's try that again. So now, when I'm speaking and I'm projecting this in front of the class, if I have a student who speaks Dutch, they are seeing in real time what I'm saying in English translated into Dutch. Okay, so that should immediately give you some ideas. Okay, but let's say you don't want to draw attention to it, or you don't want to maybe this might be distracting to some of your other students. You can quickly turn that off, right? But here we've got this button right here that is something called Present Live or PowerPoint Live. You can project this. You're following along with transcripts and slides. So basically, this allows kind of a second screen experience for slideshows. This is something that Google Slides does not really do in this way. So notice there's a QR code for kids or anybody else to scan if they want to pull it up on their phone, but kids aren't really supposed to use their phones. So what you can do is click this little button to copy this link right here. And let's say that I want to go to in and have students go to this. I could send this link out over Hapara or post it on Google Classroom. But when I go ahead and start pulling up my slides, right, I've got my slideshow here, but on the student screen, while I'm speaking and projecting this, on the student screen, when they pull this up, so on the student screen, they will see that you have your subtitles over here, and then they can see the actual slide that you are currently on. Over here, they can click back to the previous slide, but they can or try and catch up to whatever slide you're currently on, but they cannot go ahead of where you are in the main slideshow. So don't worry about that. But notice for our ELL students, they can go in and select a language, and notice it is now live translating everything that I am currently saying into Spanish on their screen, even though on my screen I do not have subtitles shown. And say you're talking really fast like I do, right? The student can scroll up to try and make sure they catch up. And if they click, they can kind of see, where was that? Oh, that was back on. Now we transition to slide 2. That must be newer information, right? So if the teacher clicks ahead, they see that information as we go. Okay. Which is going to be pretty great, right? So I know I definitely have students that use this a lot, okay? So that is PowerPoint. But say you don't want to use PowerPoint or say you have other stuff going on. Microsoft also has something called Microsoft Translator, which does some Google Translate stuff, but also has this conversations thing. So you can just sign in with your school Gmail. You can start a conversation. And it kind of pulls up to this, gives you a demo. You got to make sure you allow it to use your microphone. All right, and it kind of looks like a chat here, but notice I'm going to go ahead and in this text box, you can select what language you are speaking, right? But say you want to give this conversation code to somebody else, again over Hapara or something else. So we've got the my view on the left, the student's view on the right. and say that they speak, Spanish. Join conversation. They get the same kind of directions. And so now notice on the left-hand side, this is me. I see that somebody else joined. And I'm going to type in the word hello and see how it is translated on their side as hola. Over here, I want to say hola. And on my side, it's translated automatically into hello. So when we were virtual, I had a newcomer student who didn't speak a lot of English. I turned off the Zoom chat and we just used this as the chat box for the class. But check this out. As the teacher, I can go in to some of my settings and let's say I want to mute people. Let's say, and I want to have my microphone stay on. So this is something that I use every day when I'm giving directions or kind of working with a student who is a newcomer. Please notice that while I'm speaking, it is going to actually provide subtitles for what I'm saying on my side on the left. But while I'm speaking over here, my student is seeing everything that I am saying live translated into Spanish. Okay, so I can go across my day and start teaching and doing stuff and working with other things, working with the students. And while I'm talking and giving directions, I actually have like a little conference microphone. I can give you the link to where it was like $20 off Amazon. It can pick up my voice from, as long as the classroom's quiet, can pick up my voice from pretty much anywhere in the classroom. And so my student can use this to follow what's going on in class conversations and other things, and actually participate. And if they want to respond, they can just type in what they think in the text box. And again, that is going to show up for me on this side in the language that I speak, which is dope. This is free. You can have a bunch of people join and you can have them kind of participate, and any individual person can change whatever language they're in. Also, say, for example, though, as we talked about, oftentimes students with limited English proficiency also don't necessarily read well in their home language. Well, look at this. Boom. So I'll show you on the English side. You can go to settings. And then here where it says play speech output, if they have headphones.
Y luego aquí dice reproducir salida de voz si tienen auriculares. Aquí vamos. Ambos sentados en un regular. Aquí BMOS. Enviaré. Lo conservo. A medida que se ingresa el texto, se habla de la traducción.
So here basically the idea is they could have a headphone in or something and maybe kind of mute me or not pay attention, but everything I'm saying, if they can't really speak or if they can't read their home language super well and they're more auditory and can really listen to it, if they have something in where they can listen and not disrupt the people around them, this could be huge, right? They would be able to hear what I'm saying in their language. It's a computer, and it's not amazing, but look, like any little bit for some of these students, sometimes something little like this might be all it takes, okay? So that's Microsoft Translator. The last thing I'm going to show you is something that looks, we're going to go ahead and leave, boop. The last thing I'm going to show you is something that looks, is kind of, simpler. Say you're watching a video in class, you can also now live translate captions. And again, captions are automatic. So I'm going to go ahead and mute this video. And if I go to subtitles, I'm going to turn on captions. I'm going to go to settings. My subtitles are English auto-generated. Let me click that. Scroll down. Auto-translate. And, you can select the language you want things translated into. And as the video if the video plays in English, YouTube is automatically translating that video's subtitles into another language. This works with any video on YouTube. Okay, so let's recap, right? So we looked at Google Docs, how to translate a video in Google, page in Google Docs. We looked at how to translate text boxes in Google Slides. We looked at how to translate and read aloud websites or any text on a student's Chromebook in that translated language. We looked at PowerPoint live translations, and we looked at YouTube live translations, and then Microsoft Translator to help make sure that students can fully participate in your classroom. Okay, hopefully you found some of these features helpful. If you have any questions, want me to demo or work with you, please shoot me an email. Or if you have any feature requests or want me to make something else to go in something into